South India's #1 travel brand. You know you are special when you're with GT Holidays.
Milky Mist Paneer. Milky Mist Paneer.
Hello and welcome to Galatta Plus. In this video review episode, we are going to be talking about an important film from an important director, Viduthalai Part 2 by Vetrimaaran. The point about this film is that Vetrimaaran tries to stuff too much into this film and it ends up being a noble effort rather than an interesting film. Now, the points that Vetrimaaran makes are certainly sickle sharp, but there are too many of them and the film is very dialogue heavy and these points do not cohere into an interesting cinematic form. That's the gist of the review. The rest of this review is going to have spoilers, so do watch at your own discretion. Now, taken together, the two Viduthalai films, Part 1 and Part 2, are certainly some kind of achievement, because all the two-parter films that have been taken in this country and also abroad to my knowledge have been in the fantasy, that kind of science fiction-y zone, and rarely do we find a social or political subject being tackled in two parts. Now, Part 1 was set in 1987. It was set in southern Tamil Nadu and it was about a newbie cop named Kumaresan, played beautifully by Soori. Now, Soori was the audience's eyes in that movie. As he came from the outside to the inside of the police force, we also came from the outside thinking of them as generic, and we got to know an extraordinarily specific view of what police life was like, from the bathrooms to the kitchens to the ego hassles to the punishments to the extent that people would go to get what they want. Now, Part 1 operated at a fairly simplistic good versus evil level. The evil guys, or the bad guys, are the police, the task force that is set up to capture this outfit called Makkal Padai, and those are the good guys, led by Vijay Sethupathi in a character named Perumal. Are they Naxalites? Are they terrorists? Are they revolutionaries? Depending on who you talk to them, you may get a different answer, because all they do is use violence and a lot of other things to prevent development efforts being brought about by the government in order to save the people, apparently. But these guys know that these development efforts could affect the local system and the local people. Through Makkal Padai, we got to know the character of Kumaresan, the character arc of Kumaresan. We got to know how he became from outsider to insider, how he became someone who trusted the government, trusted the state disseminated truths to finding out what the truth really is, how he becomes a coward, a sort of coward, to a hero wielding a gun. So in short, Part 1 of Viduthalai is the coming of age of Kumaresan. Part 2 is more interesting in theory and more ambitious because it is a story of Perumal, the Vijay Sethupathi character. He is a simple school teacher. How does he become the head of a revolutionary outfit? And here is what is interesting and ambitious. Part 1 is about the coming of age of one man, that is Kumaresan. Part 2 is about the coming of age of a movement, because it is not just about one man. It is not about a hero. It says that in order to battle an unjust and oppressive system, you need everybody to pitch in. It's not a one-man job. The film's opening image is that of a sickle being forged, and of course it is not just a weapon, it is a symbol of things to come. At the beginning, Vetrimaaran says that this is a Karpanai Kadai, that is an imagined tale. It's not real, but followers of Tamil Nadu politics, followers of Tamil politics will know that a lot of these events are kind of based on things that really happened, but you don't have to know these things in order to follow what is going to come. And the points that Vetrimaaran makes are sickle sharp. We get the generic points about caste and class and religion that we've seen in other movies, but more specifically in this movie, one lovely thing that happens is that we get a man who is from an oppressed community, but he realizes that he has to be an oppressor in order to gain power, to rise up the ranks. In other words, power is the currency that takes a man from being oppressed to becoming an oppressor, because he knows that is the only way forward. In another wonderful development, a woman is an angst that the freedoms that we take for granted are actually thanks to people like Perumal, who have shed their sweat and tears and blood, and they go unrecognized, because a lot of us don't remember who are the lot of people that got us these freedoms that we take for granted today. We see a woman who has her hair cut short because the braid that she had was being used as a weapon by a man to yank her around. And we see Perumal's connection to nature because a leaf falls on him and then later he's woken up from an unconscious state by rain, and no wonder in part 1 he resents nature being plundered by the mining companies. But these points do not come together coherently in an interesting cinematic fashion. We are told that the characters played by Ken Karunas and Kishore are important in the evolution of Perumal, but the things that they say and the things that they do are fairly obvious to anybody who knows at least a little bit about workers' rights and how exploitation happens by the rich. Maybe they had more scenes and these were chopped off. For example, the scenes with Mahalakshmi, which is the character played by Manju Warrior. Now, how is this woman, who's the daughter of a sugar mill owner, how does she become a capitalist? That is the meaty dramatic point, and that's not explored at all. Also, it would have been interesting to see more of this woman because she's a hard woman at first, and later, as her bond with Vijay Sethupathi grows, she gets softer and softer and more emotional. This would have been an interesting thing to explore. As for Kumaresan, you remember Bhavani Shri character, the one he was in love with, she barely appears in this film. So this man has no personal moments to talk about. The music doesn't help. When Kumaresan signs a suspension order, Ilayaraaja lets loose some sad sounding strings as if the situation is not sad enough and it has to be made sadder by this music. This sentimental score works against the grit of what Vetrimaaran is trying to say, what he's trying to do. But the bigger problem is that the film is extraordinarily dialogue heavy. We get lines and even bigger lines that are practically entire philosophies. In some cases, these are used well, like in the scene where one character talks about how what we refer to as the left and the right, they are actually a result of what happened during the French Revolution. Before this revelation can come to a close, we quickly cut to the next scene. So it seems like part of a bigger thing, but it's not allowed to play out like an entire lecture is happening. But sadly, many of the points do feel like standalone lectures. We don't feel the simple human connection for the characters that we felt for example, Asuran. There it was a small family unit and we rooted for them. Here I get it, this is not about the family, this is about ideology. But shouldn't some emotional aspect be there in the movie? We don't feel the Vijay Sethupathi Manju Warrior relationship, we are told about it. We don't feel Vijay Sethupathi's transformation from the school teacher to this guy who reads his band of revolutionaries. We are told about it. Everything is dialogue heavy and everything is conveyed through voiceovers and dialogues and other voiceovers and other dialogues until it gets to a point where the entire film seems to be in passive voice. There is one great metaphor about Perumal turning into a guide in the forest because he's a literal guide, because he's showing them the way, and also a metaphorical guide because he's showing them the way of the communist thought. Now that kind of metaphor exists in this kind of movie where we have 80s cliched staples like a weeping widow talking about her husband. It's not the fact that widows should not weep. It's about the words that she says. Is Vetrimaaran being deliberate in selecting words from a cliched era? Is he being deliberate about it? I can't say because the film seems so like it, there doesn't seem to be a design. It seems to have come together in a very slapdash fashion, even though you see some kind of rigor happening at some point. I wish the film had just been about a bunch of cops following the Perumal character, escorting him through the forest and learning from him, because that would have given Vetrimaaran a clean and simple narrative framework and he could have said exactly what he wanted to say without going too much into diversions like with the other characters, with the romance. Even though I like seeing Manju Warrier in almost all her movies, here her character, it just feels redundant. Vetrimaaran is unable to control the chaos, the sprawl. He shows us people trekking through the jungle and he also cuts to a man, a trainer who's talking about how to fight in the jungle, jungle warfare. It's like, you know, in these documentaries, you get these talking heads suddenly popping up in between the action. It's like that. The latter parts of part 2 of Viduthalai, they perk up with some decent action and some very good villainy on behalf of Chetan. You almost want to kill the guy. The other performances by Vijay Sethupathi, Manju Warrier, Kishore, they're all what I like to call stalwart or veteran performances because they all do a very competent job with the little that the script allows them to do. Viduthalai Part 2 didn't come together totally for me, but I did have fun thinking of Vetrimaaran himself as a kind of Vadyar who's made his own version of the Communist Manifesto. And that's it about Viduthalai. If you like this video review, do subscribe to Galatta Plus and see you soon at the movies.
South India's #1 travel brand. You know you are special when you're with GT Holidays.
Milky Mist Paneer. Milky Mist Paneer.